basics what happened in the last class, then move on to this class. And today I will more focus on the practical examples, a programming example, instead of reading theory and explaining about theory, and how we can create a class and how we can call the object, how we can create an instance of that particular class. What is the use of creating instance of classes? How many instances you can create a class? We'll discuss about all these things. Before move on to the today's class, I will discuss about what happened in the last class. And just briefly summarize what happened in the last class. That's it. Okay. In the last class, we discussed about in the last class, more we focusing on the procedure-oriented programming language and object-oriented programming language, and what are the characteristics of procedure-oriented programming language, and what are the drawbacks of procedure-oriented programming language, and how we can overcoming by using the object-oriented programming language. These are the things we discussed in the last class, and we discussed principles of OOPS concept. Means class, object, encapsulation, abstraction, polymorphism, and inheritance. All these things we discussed in the last class with the real-time examples. If someone missed my last class, just I will summarize what happened in the last class. Then I will come to programming language. Like it will execute step by step. The main points I will discuss in this procedure-oriented programming. In the procedure-oriented programming language, it more focusing on the procedure instead of the data. Until unless data is not existing, what is the point of focusing on the procedure? So both are important only. You need to give equal priority to both of them. But the thing is, it will focusing more on the procedure instead of giving the priority to the data. For data, it will give the second priority. So this is one of the drawback. But this is also very good only. But then compare to, whenever I am comparing to that one, then only I am saying this is a little bit less than compared to the OOPS concept. Understanding, right, everyone? The examples of procedure-oriented programming like C, basics, and Fortran. And characteristics. What are the characteristics of procedure-oriented programming? It focusing on processor rather than the data. It took a problem as a sequence of things to be done, such as reading, calculating. Means it is sending each step by step, initializing variables, calculating things, printing the so and so. These interacting continuously. So program is divided into number of functions, and each function has clearly defined purpose. We already discussed about functions in the last class, so I'm not going to explain this point of time. And most of the functions share global data. So here you need to remember, you need to stress one point for the today's session: global data and local data. Try to remember this particular point. Local means within the function only. Outside the function, I am not supposed to access the local variables. Global data I can access anywhere in the program. Even functions itself are global to the entire program. Why? Because function, you can able to access the functions anywhere in the program. So for the today's session, you need to remember what is global and what is local. Okay. Data moves openly around the system from function to function. And what are the drawbacks of procedure-oriented programming language? Data is giving a second priority. As we already discussed about these things, it will give the first priority to the process, then second priority to the data. Since every function has complete access to the global variable, the new programmer can correct them. See, for example, function name anywhere you can access means I am not supposed to duplicate that particular function. So it means entire program or entire project, the function name must be unique. For example, some other person K, he is also doing the programming in the same file. If he introduces his own function, means with the same name. So that time the program get corrupted or the data get corrupted. Okay, that is the one more drawback of procedure-oriented programming language. It is difficult to create new data types. The user defined data types we are not able to create. Why? Because it is not extensible. The ability to create a new data types of its own it is called as a extensibility. But the extensibility property is not there for the procedure-oriented programming language. To overcoming all these issues, we will come up with one such nice idea is called the object-oriented programming language. Difficult to implement it to a client. Why? Because client requirements it's like a not like a normal flow or normal sequence. It's a little bit complicated. So the things which are going to implemented, whatever the client requirements is, little bit complicated, little bit tricky. So by using the procedure-oriented programming language, it is very difficult to implement the client requirements. So, but I already told you, right? Before starting doing any project, before started doing any coding, first we need to identify what is the suitable programming language for this particular client requirement. So based on the client requirement, then only we'll choose any one of the programming language which is present in this world. So based on the client requirement, whether it need to be object need to variable need to interact with the function or not, or function need to interact with variable or not. These all things we need to consider, and we need to finalize any one of the programming language. Then we need to process when we need to start doing coding. So the final drawback is no proper way method of exception handling. This is more important thing. Why? Because in today's client requirement, definitely we need to focusing on the runtime errors. As we give high priority to the compile time errors, we need to give high priority to the runtime errors also. Runtime errors means the logical errors. For example, 1 is divided by 0, that is called infinity. So these kind of errors, the compiler not able to understand. The compile simply process the 1 by 0. But the coming picture of displaying the output on the console, those are all that time is a runtime error. The computer is not defined 1 by 0. What result it need to throw, it is not identified. So these type of errors, how I need to handle. So these are all not coming in the compile time. These are all coming whenever running a program. These type of errors also can be handled by using the object-oriented programming language. Exceptions we can able to handle by using runtime errors. We can handle by using the exception. This is different for different programming language. They can use the try catch block and throw block and input IO exception. All these things. These are the different based on the programming language. It will different errors we can handle in different ways. The syntax is different, but the main mode is the same only. Exceptions are the runtime errors. For handling those runtime errors, there is no proper method is not there in the procedure-oriented programming language. That is there in the object-oriented programming language. How we can solve the runtime errors, we'll see in subsequent classes or next classes. Okay. OOPS concept. The main idea behind the object-oriented programming language is combination of it. Combined the process and the data. It combined the process and the data into a single unit called as an object. What it means? Object having it's a collection of data and functions. Process means everything in this world is represented by the object only. Object-oriented approach is a problem in terms of the object rather than the procedure for doing it. I already told you, right? The object having the objects are the instance of the class. Here, the examples of I'll give one of the nice example for the class and object in the today's class. See, the examples for object-oriented programming is C++, Java, VB.NET, C#, .NET, and Python. So advantage of OOPS. It implemented program using the objects. How we are implementing by using object, we will see in this today's class only. Data and the functions are wrapped into a single unit called the class. So that data is hiding and it's safe from the accidental alternation. So we'll discuss about this particular point in today's class with the practical example. As of now, try to remember data and the functions are wrapped into a single unit called a class, so that data is hidden and is safe from the accidental alteration. How we can hide the data, we'll see today's class. Objects communicate with each other through functions. Need data and functions can be easily added whenever necessary. Data and loops is secured as they under cover of classes, and their use of function can be authorized. How we can authorize, we will see now. So I'll just briefly summarize 1 or 2 minutes about these things. Though if those people who missed the last class, then they can able to understand in the today's class. The class means, here try to understand. I will give you a brief introduction. Might be everyone has in the drawing paper in engineering, right? I'm from a degree background, that's why I'm not sure about those things. Drawing paper is there, right? So if I'm drawing one of the sketch for one particular building, I'm giving the real time example. Try to focusing. Try to listen, everyone. So I'm drawing a sketch on one particular paper. See, for example, I draw one of the drawing over here. That drawing belongs to one of the building structure. Like these many floors are there. These many pillars are there. This is the floor width and length and everything I draw by the sketch. So by using that diagram, or by using the prototype, or by using that particular sketch, we can build the one particular building. We can build one particular building. The sketch itself is a class, means the drawing, the prototype is a class, and whatever I constructed building based on this particular class, this is an instance of that particular class. The building is the instance of that particular class. That is nothing but the object of that particular class. Now everyone clear about the class and object, right? The diagram or the building's architecture or the building prototype, which is written on which is drawn on the A4 size paper, that is called a class. Is by using that particular sketch, by using that particular prototype of that building, I constructed one building, that is called the object of that particular class. By using this particular sketch, I can build n number of buildings. Now everyone understanding, right? Only one class, but instances are n number of instances. Only one class, n number of instances are there. So everyone understand, right? Now the use of class and what is a class and what is the object, why we need to instance of that particular class. Everyone understand, right? By using that particular sketch, by using that particular prototype, I can build n buildings. So means one time I define one particular class, I can instance of n number of times. I can use those class members or class methods in that particular object. How we can use, I will see by using the practical example in the today's class. So method means only slight difference is there between the function and method in the Python. The function which is defined inside the class, that is called the method. I already give the real-time example for the inheritance. Means one class property is inherited in the next class. Means I define one particular class, n number of variables are there, n number of methods are there. I can use this instead of defining one more time, I can use the same thing and I can enhance the features. The best example is person. I want to write one particular one. I want to implement one software for the calculating the counting the number of people which are present in this country. So all the people are persons only. All the peoples are persons only. After that, persons means whether it is men or women. This first class is a person class. In this particular class, I will define the person and for 2 legs and 2 legs, 2 eyes, 1 mouth. Like this way, all the general properties are defined in this particular class. And men and women. This is the subclass for this particular superclass. This is the subclass for this particular superclass. All the common properties are there for the men and women coming to picture over here by inheriting the properties of the base class, and I can enhance the, see, female has some different features and men has different features. I can add these features in the subsequent class. Means I will take the properties and I will take the attributes. Here onwards, attributes means it's a combination of method and variables. Attributes means it's a combination of methods and variables. So all the attributes I can inherit in the derived class. I can use the parent class, whatever the features are there. I can add the additional features. Means salarized employee or unemployed. Like this way, I separated them. Why? Because in men and women, common properties are there. Instead of common properties are defining it individually. Common properties are defined in the person class. I can use in the separated class, men and women class. So understanding, right, why inheritance are coming to picture and what is the use of inheritance. I gave the example as property of the father is going to give it to the child. Child is going to give the property. I am giving my property to my son, like 1 lakh I am going to give. So he is going to earn his own money. He will add that money to 1 lakh. So I am using the existing money as well as I am earning new money also. Understanding, right? So polymorphism means that is also given. I also give an example as a person. Based on the person, you are the son to your family, and you are a student in your college, and you are the customer to your supermarket. You are citizen of India. Like that way, you need to give this is the one thing many form. Or they gave one more example as plus operator. Plus operator used for the addition. Plus operator used for the adding a 2 strings, or plus operator used for the adding a 2 objects as well. Data abstraction means providing the essential feature to the person but hiding the remaining entire data. Best example I gave for this one is the ATM machine. For ATM machine means you can insert the ATM card and you can withdraw money. What happened exactly inside that particular function? Inside what happened exactly? It will see your account whether the person is exist or not. It will whether the correct pin he entered or not. Everything is going to check internally, and based on the input is given by you, it is take it as input and it will process and it will give the money based on your request. So I can show the whole essential feature. I am hiding the internal details. One more example is TV remote. Encapsulation means it's a combination of data hiding plus the abstraction. It's a data hiding plus abstraction is called the encapsulation. Wrapping up of the data and member function into one particular single unit class, the encapsulation. One more, I already give the assignment, right? And the class. So I hope everyone now aware of difference between these three. Then I move on to the next lesson, today's class. So today onwards we will focus more on the practical example instead of the theory. Instead of theory, we will focusing on the practical examples. So now I told you I gave one example as a class means I can define a class. I can define a class means I will create I will draw one sketch of one building. Based on that sketch, I can draw the buildings. So simply I give the sample. The class name always start with the capital letter. So I press the enter. So I define one variable. One variables means like input. These are the local variables. Try to understand. These are the local variables, not instances variables. I'll tell you the difference between local variable and instance variables also. I gave the 0 over here. I initialize the one of the variable. No, one more time I defined the one particular function. Test function. I define the text function. Inside write the print all. Welcome to the Python session. Here what I have done, I define one particular class, and the class name is a sample, and then after I gave took one of the variable, I initialized to 0, then I defined one particular function. The function name is a test. The function name always start with a small letter, and it will say, try to see here, except the def and a class, both of them is same only. So now we'll try to see what's going to happen. Now I define one particular class with the one variable and one function. Until unless I am not going to create instance of that particular class, means creating instance means I am creating the object of that particular class. What I need to do for that one? OB object, you can give your own name. So you can give whatever you want. Sample object equal to sample. So I created a instance of this particular class. I created a instance of this particular class. If I want to call this particular variable or this particular function, we need to call by using the dot operator. We need to call by using the dot operator. Now sample, now sample underscore object object dot test. Now what method I call? I created instance of this particular class. I am calling the whatever the functions which are available inside that particular class. Now we'll try to see. Sorry, what's going to happen? It will give one error. What is that error? We'll see. As of now, we discussed about self also. We'll discuss about self as well. So what happened? Hi all, welcome to the session. So without giving the self, what error is giving? Try to see everyone. Trace back file sample underscore object dot test. Take no arguments. It will need to give the one given. Take no argument. One is given. What is that? We'll see in the later class. As of now, try to remember this error. Now try to note it down, this error. Type error. Everyone able to see the right? Everyone able to see the right? There is no font problem, right? There is no font problem, right? So test takes no arguments, one given. So we'll see what is this error, and we'll see. So what I have done over here, I created a class. And followed by the in symbol, I took one local variable to this particular class. I defined one more method inside the class. See here in the object procedure-oriented programming language, what happened? Here I defined one particular class. So what happened? I am not supposed to create one more function name like this way. So for here def and test, I can give one more class name. one more same function inside class. Why? Because this is internal to this function and this is internal to this function. So I can give one more function name as with the same name. So understand, right, everyone? So this is the way you need to define a class, and you can define a n number of functions inside a class. This is called the method of that particular class. Means these are all called as the attributes of sample class. Attributes means it's combination of variables and methods which are there inside the class. So I created a sample.object class, and for this particular class name I called the method by using the dot operator. I called the object by using I called the method of sample class by using the dot operator. Now everyone got to know, right? I can create one more object here. I can create sample underscore object object one equal to sample one more object. I created one more object here. Print sample underscore object object one dot input. So what here name sample is not defined. What I did mistake? Here we need to give the capital S. It gave the, I created a one more object over here. I created a one more object over here. That object name is sample underscore object one. Previously sample underscore object. It means what happened? What I gave the real time example for that one. One sketch is there of the building. Based on this sketch, I can build n number of buildings. Means sketch is a class. Means here sample is a class. I can inherit. I can instance of this particular class in n number of times. I can instance of this particular class n number of times. Means this is object 1, this is object 2. This is object 1, this is object 2. Understanding, right, everyone? This is object 1 and this is object 2. This is the way you need to write the programs in the Python. And we'll see one more example regarding this one only. See, the advantage I will explain. So here test is there. Here test is there. If you observe this particular test, the class name is a pet. The class name is a pet and one variable is there, number of legs equal to 0. Initially I gave the number of legs is 0. Why? Because based on the type of the pet, I can give the how many legs are there, whether it is a something else, I will give the number of legs is different. Like that way you need to give. So for that one, what I need to do? Based on the pet, I will give initialize the value. So try to see number of legs and give the two methods over here, and in the first method I give the self. See, everyone try to observe. We need to give the self in each and every method. Why we need to give, we'll discuss in the today's session only. As of now, it's a mandatory to give the self parameter, self argument or self parameter inside the method. Try to see. As of now, try to see. So I print this particular value inside that one. See, this is the object 1. This is the object 2. This is object 1 and this is the object 2. By using this object and dot operator, I assign one of the value to this variable. See here, I define one variable inside this one. Based on my assumption, I can reinitialize variables. Means is here number of legs value is 0 only. But here I gave my own variable. Why? Because this is the instance of the class. This is the instance of the class. I can give my own value to over here. So in the second position, This number of legs equal to 0. Here you can give your own value is here 1 also. Don't ask me which pet having the one leg. Don't go to the practical logical examples, and I'm focusing on the logical programming example. Okay. Okay, try to see. You'll try to run this program. So I have 4 legs. Don't think that I have 4 legs. I have only 2 legs only. I'm talking about related to this particular program. Okay, I'm talking related to this particular program. I have 4 legs and I have 1 leg. Where it come? Where it came? See, try to see. This is the one instance. For this particular instance of time, I have my own properties. I reinitialize my own variables. And here, second object is there. Again, in the second object also, I created my own variables, my own values. So now everyone got to know, right? What is the importance of the class, and why we need to create a object of that particular class. Why we need to create a object of that particular class. Now everyone understand, right? Everyone understand or not? So everyone try to see. Here and one method, and one more method is also there. Printf statement is also there. Printf statement. Until unless I am running this particular program. I am running this particular program. Try to see. What output it came? What output came? It came nothing. Even though it has 2 methods are there and 1 variable is there, but the output is nothing. Why it is nothing? Why it is nothing? Why? Because until unless you are not creating an object of that particular class, you are not creating an object of that particular class. It means in functions, what you have done in the functions, you define one function, and you inside a function you write n number of statements. But until unless you are not calling that particular functions, until unless you are not calling that particular function, you are not able to utilize whatever the attributes which are present in that particular function. Similarly, you are not able to use the class attributes until unless you are not creating a object of that particular class. Now we can see I have 4 legs. It called this function. This function here as well as the here is what? Ready to create a object of that particular class or instance of that particular class. This is the object name. This is the object name of this particular class and this particular class. Means what happened? I can create a n number of instances to the base class. Now everyone understanding, right? Practically everyone understanding, right? Now I am not going to waste the time, and I will move on to the self variable. Until unless I am not explaining the self variable, you are not going to get this logic. Now everyone clear. Now everyone clear about the class and object, right? Now everyone clear about the class and object, right? Now, as of now. What is a self parameter? Why we need to give by default a self, and how we can avoid the self parameter in a Python programming language. Self parameter in function defined inside the class, but we call the method simply as ob.function without any argument. It still work. What is the meaning of this particular word? What is the meaning of this particular word? So try to see here. Try to see here. I define one complex number program and I initialize. This is init also. I am going to explain the today's session only. And one argument, second argument, and third argument. And here one argument. See here I created a one object C1 and I created object C1 and what I did, I using the get data. If it is a function, whatever the parameters are there, that many arguments you need to pass. Until unless you are not passing that argument, what happen? What the interpreter will do in a Python programming language means it need to take one argument. You are providing 0 arguments in the error. But in case of class, what happen? You are defining a one parameter as self, but you are not passing any value while calling that particular function or that particular method. What happened means here whenever you are creating an object, whenever you are calling a method of that particular class, this particular object has a default parameter to this particular function. I'm going to repeat this statement again. Whatever the attributes, whether parameter is there, the first parameter, the object itself is passed as the first parameter to this particular method. It means C1 is going to get over here. That is the only one reason it is not throwing any error. Now understanding, right, what is the self meaning and why we need to use the self. It's not a keyword. It is not going to be anything in the Python programming language. It is for naming convention. We gave the SELF. You can give your own name to this particular variable. This particular parameter you can give your own name. Now understanding, right? What is the meaning of self and why it is not throwing any error? What is the meaning of self and why it is not throwing error? This is because whenever an object calls its method, here whenever you call a method, whenever an object calls its method, here this is the object name. We have created an object for this particular class, and whenever this object is calling a method, the object itself is passed as the first argument. This particular C1 object is passed itself to this particular method. That's why the interpreter is not throwing any error in this particular scenario. Passed as the first argument. So ob.function translate to my class. My class means this object is the instance of my class. This object is the instance of my class, and this is the function name. And this particular OB is passing to this particular object. Understanding, right, everyone? OB.function. If I am calling OB.function means here it will call the object of which class? My class object. This one OB. So my class dot function class, that particular means it will pass the first argument for that particular function. Understanding, right, everyone? Understanding, right, everyone? Give me 1 minute. Calling a method with a list of n arguments is equivalent to calling the corresponding function with an argument. Now understanding, right? See here I call the get method over here. Means here I'm going to give the notation over here. You can try to understand. Here I'm calling the C1 dot get object means what indirectly I'm doing? Complex number dot get data inside. Now if you understand this particular statement, now you can able to understand what is the meaning of self. What is the meaning of self? You can able to understand. Complex number. This is the inbuilt feature of the Python. The self is the inbuilt feature of the Python. So complex number dot get method is a get data is a method, and we are passing the first argument for this one. Now understanding, right? What is the why it is not throwing an error? Now it is for this reason the first argument of the function in class must be the object itself. This is conventionally called self. It can be named otherwise, but we can highly recommend it to follow the naming convention. You can write our own naming convention, but for naming conventions we need to use the self parameter. Understanding, right? What is the self parameter now? Why it is not throwing an error? How many? If you pass the one argument, one parameter is there, but you are not passing it any parameter by using the object, that time it will throw an error, right? Understanding, right, everyone? Now we'll see one more example for this one. Example point, and this is the object. What is the object? I will explain. This is related to super class. Whenever we are discussing about inheritance, we will discuss about this particular thing. And def followed by the init and self comma x equal 10 comma y equal 0. Here to remember this particular point. I gave the local and global variables over there, right? This is the instances variable. This is the instance variable. Whenever the variable which start with the self, those are all variables called the instant variables. So dot x equal to x and self dot y equal to y, def and followed by the distance self. Find distance from the origin. Return self dot x. This is operator means a square x square plus self dot x square into 0.5. Here I am calling this one. It will give the output of this one. Now why see here one parameter is there or one argument is, but we are passing the 0 arguments over here, but still we are getting the output. Still we are getting the output. Everyone focusing, right? See, I am giving the best example. I am giving the best examples. I am comparing the real-time examples I am giving. Once you understand the Python programming language OOPS concept, within 10 days or 15 days, you are completely genius on Java, and completely you are going to become genius on C++. Why? Because all OOPS features and are there in Java and C++. Understanding, right? So try to focusing on these examples. Try to see. So it gives the 10 is the answer. But here what you have done? Print here 3 parameters are there. Only we pass the 2 values over there. One value for x and one value for y. We are not passing any value to self. Object is going to get present over here, and here also P1 is going to get present. P1 dot distance means this calculated, and it will give the result as a output. Now understanding, right, everyone? Now everyone is understanding, right? What is a self and how we can avoid the self variable? We'll see. How we can avoid the self variable, we can see. So you need to type and see, for example, I told you, right? The functions which is defined inside a class means, the function which is defined inside a class means, that is called a method. The function outside a method, if you define is means a function. This we can try to observe. You can type. Type means what it will give? It will give the type of that particular. Give the type of that particular whatever you are providing input. It will give that one. Class function. This is a function. This is a class method. Means what? This is the class name and this is the function name. We are passing the inbuilt function. What inbuilt function for type? What I am passing? Point is the class name and the distance is the function inside that particular class. If I give that one, what it gave output as a class and function. By using the object, what I give? Type. This is the object of this point class. This is the object of this point class. Same only, right? P1 is the object of the point class. And I am passing the method or function over here. What it gave as output? The interpreter is treated as this one as a function and this one as the method. Based on the how we are calling, it is going to treat. If you call by using the class name and followed by the function name, it will treat it as a function. And if you give the object name followed by the function name, it treated as a method. We'll see what happens. Generally, when we call a method with some argument, the corresponding class function is called by placing the method object before the first argument. We already seen, right? P1 is placed over there. In this example, P1 is placed over here. Then it will take as a 2 arguments, 6 for the x and 8 for the y. Understanding, right? By placing the first method object before the function argument. So anything like object.method and followed by the arguments become the class and method and object followed by the arguments. First place go to the object, then followed by the arguments. The first place go to the object, then followed by the arguments. Now, how can you avoid the self in the Python programming language? Why? Because obviously first object it is taking, first argument is taking as the self. So I don't want to take it as a first argument as an object. So I want to whatever the arguments I'm passing, it need to take as it is. So that time what we need to do? By now we are clear that the object itself is passed along as the first argument automatically. As of now, what we have seen, first argument is a object. Here we see first argument as a object. Now I don't want first argument as a object. So what we need to do? The implicit behavior can be avoided by taking a method as static method. So how we can take it as a static method? Try to see. Here class A and this is a static method def. We need to write the at the rate of static method. We need to write like this way and we need to follow it by the def followed by the static method and print no self parameter passed over here. No self parameter. Here previously if you are not passing, object is taking as the first parameter. But if you make it as a static, making a method as a static, no point of taking a first argument as object. So now everyone understanding, right? What self contain and to overcoming a self, what we need to do? We need to make it as a method as static. So understanding, right? Till now everyone understand, right? What self contain, why we need to use the self, and how we can avoid the self. If self is a inbuilt feature in the Python programming language. Self is a naming convention. You can write your own name, and naming convention better to use a self only. Understanding, right? Till now or anyone has any queries, please note it down. Okay, and then we move on to the constructors. This is also major and most important feature in a object-oriented programming language. But slightly difference is there in the other programming language and Python programming language. There are two types of constructors are there in Java and three types of constructors there in C++. But here the constructor task is different, but task is same, but it is little bit different than compared to the other programming language. Constructors are used to initialize the object of that particular class. Only one point related to constructors. Only one point related to constructor you need to remember. Constructors are used to initialize the object of that particular class. Then we need to use the constructors. So technically speaking, constructor is a method which create a object itself. In Python, this method is a new. But one more interesting is here you need to remember one particular point related to this init function. This init function are used to initialize the variables or initialize the parameters of that particular class. Same thing you can do by using the constructors also. But most of the people are getting confused that everyone note it down. This particular point. The init function is not a constructor. Constructor means the new is a constructor in a Python programming language. The init function is not a constructor of a class, but init is used for the initializing the arguments of that particular class, initializing the object of that particular class. As of now, try to see. Technically speaking, constructor is a method which creates the object itself. In Python, this method is __ new __ followed by the parenthesis. The syntax of constructor is to_ followed by the new and followed by the underscore and CLS. This is also self variable. This is the arguments and the keyword arguments over here. The new is called the class itself is passed as the first argument. The new is called the class itself is passed as the first argument automatically, and remaining this CLS means a self variable, self parameter. CLS you can give the SELF also, but naming convention I gave the CLS over there, and args and keyword arguments are the used to take arbitrary number of arguments. These two are used for the taking an arbitrary number of arguments during the method calls based on the arguments we are passing to this particular function. It is going to take based on the arguments or based on the arguments during method calls in a Python. Now understanding, right, what is a constructor, what is the use of the constructor, everyone understand, right? Now we'll see some more information related to the constructor. Class function that begin with the underscore are called the special functions. They have the special meaning. Class functions. The class function, what are the? These are the special functions. Or special functions, they have the special meaning. Init function get called whenever the new object of that class is initiated. Here this point we need to remember. Init function get called whenever a new object of that particular class is initiated. By default, whenever you created an object, the init function is going to get called. This type of function is also called the constructors in object-oriented programming language. It will do whatever the constructor is going to do, but the init function is not a constructor. Definitely, this is most important thing. Whenever you attend any interview, definitely they are going to ask, init function is a constructor in a Python program or not. If not, what function is do fulfill the constructor features? The new function is going to fulfill the constructors things. Understanding, right? The new is a always called before init. You need to remember this particular point over here. Always new function will call before the init function will call. The first priority go to the new function instead of init function. Generally, init is used to initiate newly created object, while new is used to control the way an object is created. Might be you will get confusion. The init object is already there for initializing the object. Then why the new object is there? Now Surendra said constructors are used for the initializing the object. The purpose of new object is over here is it is used to control the way an object is created. How we can create an object? It is going to get control on that particular object. So one practical use of a new, however, could be the restrict the number of objects created from. You can create a number of objects of that particular class, but by using the new function, new special function, you can get restriction the number of objects created from that particular class. And here you need to remember one more important question here, interview point of view. New is going to always get called first, then compared to, then first new is going to get called, then only init function is going to get called. Now, true if it exists. If it is not there, it will return false. Get attributes. You need to get the values from that particular. So return value of the age attribute and set attributes. It will set the age equal to 8. So it is setting the attributes and delete the attributes and delete the by using the del attribute.
Sorry for the disturbance.
Okay. Sorry. Okay, I'm sharing.
Okay, thank you very much.
So this is the way you need to see. Everyone try to make sure. I'm repeating again this word. You need to use the get and set attributes. The programmer must be efficient definitely by seeing the how you are applying the concepts which are present in that particular programming language. Based on that also people can judge you whether you are an efficient programmer or not. So what are the built-in class attributes? I already told you, right? Some of the built-in class attributes are there. What are those attributes? Functionality of those attributes, and if you use those attributes, what is the output of that particular attributes? Every Python class keeps following built-in attributes and they can be accessed using the dot. Everyone try to remember one point. Even if it is a function, we need to use the dot operator. If it is a class, we need to use the dot operator. We need to build in the function, we need to use the dot operator. Every time the dot operator plays the more key role in the any programming language. So these are the built-in class attributes are there. Underscore underscore. This is, don't get confused. This is the double underscore. This is also double underscore. It will combine one line is there, right? This is a underscore only. DICT dictionary containing the class namespace. DOC, what is the functionality? DOC, class documentation string or none if undefined. If it is not defined, it is going to print nothing. and name underscore name, it will define the class name. It will define the class name and module. Module name is in which the class is defined. In which the class is defined. The attributes is the main in interactive mode. Main is the interactive mode. So we see one of the example for this one. Everyone able to see? Everyone able to see here? The class name is employee and employee count equals 0. This is the local variable common base for class for all the employees. Everyone able to access this particular variable. And inside the definition, inside the method definition, these are the instance variables. These are the instant variables. So I want to access these class attributes. What we discuss in the class in this one, what we discuss over here. If you want every Python class keep following the built-in attributes and they can be accessed using the dot operator. We can able to access by using the dot operator. Employee is the class name followed by the dot and documentation DOC. And the second one is the name. Third one is the module. Fourth one is the basis. Fifth one is the dictionary. We'll see. We'll try to run and we'll see what is the output of this. See, class name dot what came? Common base class for all the employees. Common base class for all the employees. This is the documentation. The first step. You might have remember whenever we are talking about the functions, whenever you are talking about the class, whenever talking, first line goes to the documentation. First line goes to the documentation. What we need to write, what is the purpose of the documentation? Why we need to write that particular function or the particular class in this particular program? Why we are writing what is the intention of this particular class? What is the intention of this particular? See what are written? Common base class for all the employee. Common base class for all the employee. This employee class is the common base class for all the employees. So what is over there? Common. This is the documentation. Name. Name means what? It will give the name of that particular class. Name of this particular class. What is the name of this particular class? Employee. And this is the module means me. So like this way, similarly, we are going to get output. This is the only reference purpose. Like if you are working on more than 100 classes, more than 100 modules, if you want to see where we are, that's why we need to use these class attributes. These class attributes we need to use whenever you are working on more than 100 classes or more than 1000 classes. Why? Because for a debugging purpose, it's very easy. Where we are, and we can check, and we can easily identify where we are currently and what bug we based on the bug, and can directly go to that particular class name or that particular dictionary, and we can resolve those errors. So deleting attributes and class. Till now, what we have seen, I initialize object over there, and I use the attributes of that particular class. Attributes means it's a combination of variables and the methods. And how we can delete the attributes? How we can delete the object? See, my scope is over. Then what is the key point of keeping the attributes and the object in the lifelong? So once it get over, can be deleted anytime using the del statement. You might have remember whenever you're discussing about the data types, right? Whenever it is discussing about the data types, all the common functions are there in all attributes. All data types use the del function for deleting the variables or deleting the tuples or deleting the numbers. Everything we need to use the del function, right? So here For deleting the attributes and deleting the variables and deleting the object also, we can use the del function. C is equal to C1 is what? C1 is the object. This one is the complex number is the class name. I created a class name of that particular class and I'm deleting the delete C1 dot imaginary. I'm deleting any one of the variable of that object. Deleting the variable of that object. Whenever you created a C1 dot get data, that time what? I'm just getting the data over there. Now that time what is giving the error? Trace back, most recent callback, and the complex number object has no attribute imaginary. Why? Because why it is imaginary is not there? Why? Because I already deleted the imaginary by using the del function, which is present in a Python. Now understanding, right? I deleted a object and I deleted a attribute here. Now I deleted a, I can delete a, I deleted a argument or I deleted a parameter over here. But here I deleted a function itself or method itself. DEF followed by that particular class name followed by the function. After deleting this particular function name, I'm just calling the C1 dot object dot get data. What is this one? This is the method which is present inside the class. So trace back most recent call function, attribute error, complex number object has no attribute get data. Now everyone got an error. Here also it gave the attribute. Here also get the attribute. It means attributes means it's a common. It's a objects. It means method and variables inside a class. All these things we can call it as a attributes of that particular class. Attributes of that particular class. Now till now we discuss about how we can delete a attribute and how we can delete attributes means how we can delete a parameters and how we can delete a object of that particular how we can delete a method of that particular. Now we can see how we can delete a object itself. How we can delete a object itself. I created a C1 equal to complex number 1, 2. Now I deleted a object. Deleted object. Again I'm trying to calling a C1 object. What happened? Trace back most recent call lost. Name error. Name C1 is not defined. Name C1 is not defined. Why? Because I deleted a object C1 by using the del function. By using the del function, I deleted a C1 object. Create a object for that particular class means instance of that class. At the same time, once I created, how we can delete a object of that particular class. Also, you got to know by using the del operator, you can delete a object of that particular class. Now, what happened internally? We'll see. What happened whenever you delete an object? Whenever you remember the namespace, how many people remember the namespace? You remember, right? Namespacing. For example, a equal to 3. Then after what I have done over there, a equal to a plus 1 means this object is pointed to 4. What happened? Just the object is going to be there only, and reference value is going to be there only. But over there, what I am doing? I am referring to the next object. So that time what happened? I'm pointing to the next value to a is pointing to next value. So but the thing is 3 is present over there only, but 3 is not at all getting destroyed. So here also same only. First is C1 object I created. I'm just pointing to complex number, object real and imaginary over there. C equal to a complex number 1, 3 over there. But I am dereferencing by deleting the object. By deleting the object, what I have done, I just simply dereferencing of this particular C1 object to this one. But this particular value is going to be exist. How we can going to destroy this destructor? Constructor used for the initializing the variable. Destructor used for the releasing the memory. We'll see destroying the object. How we can destroy the object? We'll try to see. How we destroy the object? We'll see. The process by which Python periodically reclaiming the blocks of memory that no longer are in use in terms of garbage collector. Yesterday I discussed about in the previous class. I discussed about whenever you are talking about whenever you are going to build one software or one particular application, you need to focusing on the security. Apart from the security, you need to focusing on the garbage collector also. I gave another example in the previous class. If I'm not wrong, I gave another example. If the WhatsApp application, if it is more than 1 GB, how many people are going to install that in your mobile? So you need to focusing on the memory also. Whenever you're creating in a software, you need to focusing on the security as well as the memory also. On the top of these two only, then you need to talk about the how much cost it is going to take. Cost is the low priority then compared to the security and the memory. Understanding, right? Python garbage collector runs during the program execution and is used to trigger when object refer count reaches to the 0. Automatic garbage collector is there in the Java also, but that feature is not there in the C programming language. That feature automatic garbage collector is not there in the C programming language, but is there in the Java also. An object references count increases when it is assigned a new name or a place in the container. Tuple, and try to remember this particular point. It reaches to 0. When it is going to reaches to 0 and when it is going to get increased, I will show you in the practical example. I will show you the one other practical example. I will show you. As of now, try to see Python garbage collector runs during program execution and is triggered when object is references count reaches to 0. Python in object references count increases when it is assigned. If it is assigning it, it will increase the counter. It is dereferencing, it decreases the